The laughter stung more than the wine. In front of what felt like 1,000 VIPs, a billionaire's sister tilted her glass, letting the red liquid flow down the CEO's dark suit jacket like a waterfall of arrogance. The room went silent for a split second, before erupting in cruel, almost gleeful amusement. Cameras flashed like paparazzi at a scandal. Whispers circulated, but the woman they mocked didn't even flinch. She simply looked up, cool and collected, as if she were calculating the exact cost of the insult, down to the penny. Moments later, her cell phone rang. 5 understated words left her lips, and within what felt like minutes, a multi-billion-dollar empire began to crumble right before their eyes. The chandeliers overhead sparkled like frozen lightning, casting light on a crowd that was built on nothing more than money, image, and the illusion of control. Every step, every handshake, every sip of expensive champagne was nothing more than a silent competition, a battle for dominance. At the center of it all stood Soraya Voss, CEO of Voss Technologies, the very same woman who had just secured a $2.4 billion partnership with the Sterling Group. Her success was the highlight of the evening, the thing everyone was talking about, until it became the scandal, a whisper that grew into a roar. "Who invited her?" one guest muttered, barely audible. "She doesn't exactly fit in, does she?" The laughter that followed was polite at first, but quickly turned into something else entirely. From the top of the grand staircase descended Isabella Sterling, the billionaire's sister, practically dripping with entitlement and unchecked envy. She approached Soraya, a glass of crimson wine swirling in her perfectly manicured hand. "Oh, you must be the partner," Isabella said, drawing out the pause between her words just long enough to let the venom drip. "My brother has such bold taste in business." Soraya smiled politely, unfazed. "And I have bold standards." The calm, almost clinical sharpness of her words didn't seem to amuse Isabella. She leaned in closer, invading Soraya's personal space. "You know, not everyone can simply buy a seat at this table." Soraya's eyes never wavered, never betrayed a hint of emotion. "Some of us built the table." A heartbeat of silence stretched out, almost tangible. Then Isabella smirked, a cruel, knowing expression. And then she tilted her glass. The wine splashed across Soraya's shoulder, dripping onto the polished floor like pure, unadulterated arrogance. Gasps rippled through the assembled crowd. Then came the laughter, hollow, nervous, and complicit, as if they were all in on some sick joke. Soraya stood perfectly still, a statue carved from ice. Isabella's voice sliced through the noise like a knife. "Oh dear, I didn't see you there. You blend in so easily." That line, meant to humiliate, hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Cameras clicked and whirred, capturing every humiliating detail. Someone whispered, sure that they were unheard, "She won't recover from this." But Soraya didn't shout, didn't move, didn't even blink. She simply reached for her phone with an unhurried grace. The crowd expected a meltdown, a dramatic outburst. Instead, they got silence, an unsettling calm. She scrolled once, tapped twice, and lifted the phone to her ear. "Proceed," she said softly. Just one word, but the room's temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Within minutes, screens lit up. Notifications buzzed like angry hornets across the gala. Executives glanced at their phones, then at each other, a growing sense of unease in their eyes. Confusion spread through the room like wildfire. The breaking news headlines arrived before the waiters could even refill the champagne glasses. Asterisk breaking, Voss Technologies terminates 2.4 contract with Sterling Group star. Isabella's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of stunned disbelief. "What did you do?" Soraya looked at her calmly, her voice steady. "You poured the wrong glass." A low murmur rippled through the room, the sound of the powerful suddenly realizing they weren't in control. Her brother, Charles Sterling, stormed across the ballroom, phone clutched tightly in his hand. "Soraya, this must be a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding," she said evenly, her voice unwavering. "Your board violated our integrity clause. The partnership is null." "You can't do that." he barked, his face turning red with fury. I already did. He froze, the weight of her words sinking in. Around them, investors were reading the same official statement from VOS Technologies' verified account. Asterisk effective immediately, VOS Technologies is withdrawing from its partnership with the Sterling Group due to irreconcilable ethical differences. Asterisk every camera in the room turned toward Soraya. But this time, no one laughed. She set her champagne glass down gently on a nearby table and faced the audience, her gaze sweeping across the stunned faces. Power isn't about who can humiliate whom. It's about who can rebuild without permission. The ballroom was utterly silent. The only sound was the faint hum of phones refreshing headlines, the digital death knell of a failing empire. Charles tried desperately to salvage what he could of the situation, to regain some semblance of control. You'll regret this. You can't destroy decades of partnership because of a glass of wine. Soraya's expression didn't change, not even slightly. I didn't destroy it. You did when arrogance became your business model. Her tone wasn't loud or angry, but every word hit with surgical precision, cutting through the carefully constructed facade of power and privilege. Then she turned, not toward the exits as everyone expected, but toward the stage where the event's charity banners still hung. She picked up the microphone, her eyes sweeping across the shocked and silent crowd. When I walked into this room, she said, her voice clear and resonant, I was reminded how easy it is for power to mistake itself for class. But class isn't what you wear or what you own. It's how you treat people when no one can punish you for it. The crowd didn't dare breathe, afraid to break the spell. Tonight isn't my embarrassment. It's this room's mirror, and I hope you like what you see. Cameras captured the moment perfectly. Isabella trembling with barely contained rage, Charles staring in disbelief, and Soraya radiant, not in fury or triumph, but in complete and utter composure. She set the microphone down on its stand and walked toward the exit, each step echoing louder than any applause. No security guards followed her this time. No one even dared to try. Outside, the night was cold and eerily quiet. A car door opened silently. Her assistant handed her a tablet. The press is going wild, he said, his voice hushed with awe. Sterling stock dropped 12% in 15 minutes. Soraya looked out the window, her expression unreadable. It'll keep dropping. Integrity always costs more than people expect. He hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to proceed. Do you want to issue a public statement? She shook her head, her gaze fixed on some distant point. I already have. Inside the gala, chaos had completely replaced champagne. Reporters clamored for statements, shoving microphones in the faces of anyone who looked important. Investors whispered nervously about moral clauses and fiduciary responsibilities. Isabella's brother was on the phone with his high-priced lawyers, his empire unraveling one push notification at a time. By morning, the Sterling Group had lost $480 million in market value. Analysts called it the quietest corporate execution in history. At noon, Soraya released a single, powerful post across her company's social media channels. Asterisk respect is not negotiable. Asterisk the message broke records, shared by CEOs, activists, and even government officials. The viral clip of the spilled wine and her quiet, devastating retaliation reached 400 million views in just 24 hours. That night, a journalist asked her on live television, his voice full of thinly veiled curiosity, how did it feel to humiliate them so completely? Soraya smiled faintly, a hint of steel in her eyes. I didn't humiliate anyone. I just reminded them of the hierarchy they forgot. He leaned forward, intrigued. Which hierarchy? The one where decency ranks above dollars. The quote became legendary, an instant classic. Boardrooms printed it on posters. Universities studied it in ethics classes. Her company tripled in valuation within months. The Sterling Empire, once considered untouchable, quietly collapsed under the weight of its own arrogance and greed. Isabella vanished from the public eye, her name now a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones. Months later, Soraya stood before a gathering of global leaders and said, her voice ringing with conviction, Silence isn't weakness. It's the fuse before truth explodes. The audience rose in thunderous applause, a standing ovation for a woman who had dared to challenge the status quo. To her, it was never about revenge, about settling a score. It was about correction, about setting things right. Because true power doesn't need to shout or seek validation. It speaks once, acts with unwavering purpose, and lets the world echo its truth forever.